Hey everybody, I'm Amber.
And I'm Maddie.
And we're Witches Talking Tarot. And today we are going to talk about a fun subject that goes way the fuck too closely in line than I ever expected with a lot of the things that we've been talking about and a lot of the things that I've been researching on my own. And so tonight, let us dive into just a few of the conspiracies and some of just the truths that surround CERN and their Large Hadron Collider, because, well, they're going to kill us fucking all. Like, that's how the world ends now. Like, we now know that CERN, I mean...
You said a fun topic. And
it is, but Jesus Christ, they're going to kill us all. But actually, you know, and that plays into it too, because, like, there's a lot of biblical people that pull CERN into, and they're like, oh, it matches up with biblical prophecy and this, that, and the other, and the God particle. And it's like, what are you guys doing out there in Geneva, Switzerland?
It was definitely one of these those episodes where I do the research and everything just makes sense when it doesn't, because like I'm watching it with my husband, right? He's listening to all the conspiracies. I hate listening to conspiracies with that man. I don't know if your husband's the same way, but it's very, nah, that's not a conspiracy theory. Nah, that's not true. I know a lot of men, or not men, but husbands, let me say, are like, nah, that's just hog wallop.
I would say with horror, it definitely depends on the subject matter. Not every conspiracy, but also, like, most of them aren't just theories. They're just like, it's real. It's what's going on.
No,
and because
really.
like Corey doesn't do social media in any way, shape, or form, but news and YouTube rabbit holes about crazy shit. Corey does that. That motherfucker reads everything current event wise, and once in a while he gets down a YouTube rabbit hole.
I love YouTube rabbit holes.
Yeah, and so like he has seen firsthand through his own diving into things, whether it's been reading article after article after article or watching video after video after video. Like, the truth is out there, and we're made to look crazy, just like Mulder.
So the with the research that I started out with,
sorry,
with the research that I started out with what they're telling people. So CERN is a project, a huge scientific project. I'm multiple countries.
CERN is a company.
Well, it's a company,
and it's got different scientific projects that they do, and the Large Hadron Collider is the most fucking concerning.
Right, and there's multiple
they've
countries.
Been around since the 50s.
Oh yeah, they've been around for a long time. Multiple countries are invested, including India, and
it's mostly European Union things. India, Israel, and a little bit of us is the most outside of Europe that is involved.
And and it's like they're so the one that I specifically got information on that they've released is that there's this giant, like, it's giant, but it's also not giant. It's like a huge tunnel that goes in a circle, right?
Okay, that's the Large Hadron Collider.
Okay,
it's the biggest machine that man has made.
Yeah.
Like, it's the largest machine that we've made, and it's been in existence since the 70s.
Yes, and they release different particles, and this is not the conspiracy. This is the actual, like, this was on the Science Channel.
Yeah, if you've heard of the atom smasher, that's the Large Hadron Collider. And that's what.
Yes, so they release different particles or atoms in opposite fucking directions.
Right. So they run into each other because, like, look, they're trying to find what's smaller than the atom. How do you do that? You have to break atoms up. Yeah. But what is that? That's an atomic bomb. So you have to contain it.
Oh my God.
That's why they have the whole thing the way it is.
The fact not to bring in the atomic bomb, but how the fuck do you, like, break an atom?
Look, okay, first of all, these motherfuckers be playing God. Like, hey, all scientists are trying to play God.
How do we even find an atom? Like, can I grab one out of the air? I don't know science, guys.
You are made up of them.
Right. So how do you,
so you are not on this couch. much. Okay?
No, our atom.
Your atoms are pushing against the atoms
Right.
that make up this couch.
Right.
And in between all of the atoms that we have is empty space, but it's not empty space because it's dark matter. And inside your atoms, in the spaces in between inside your atom is dark matter. And that is what they've discovered with the Large Hadron Collider. And like, that's not all that they were hoping to discover with it, but that's what they wanted to find out. They wanted to know what.
Well, how do you get a single atom?
How do you get down to a single atom?
Yeah, like so that they could, they're releasing different things. Like, right? Okay, so you don't know. I have no motherfucking idea.
Look, my brain held on to like the new information about like neutrinos and dark matter and antimatter and
this one, like, what do they just like suck it out of the air? Like, so, I don't understand. Where does it?
Matt Groening did The Simpsons,
right?
And he did Futurama. And I don't know if you've seen all those memes where they talk about The Simpsons predicting the future, but Futurama predicted this shit with like Professor Farnsworth, like 100%, like all this crazy shit with like the dark matter and the antimatter, like that's been in Futurama. Like this isn't science fiction. They were literally like all the concepts we have for science fiction are truly scientific theory that scientists just hadn't been able to prove. And that's why they have this, like you said, why would they do it? That's why, because science fiction is not fiction. It's science possibility. And now they have proven so much of it for science fact.
I'm sorry. That makes me cry. I know it sounds like I'm laughing, guys, but it's just a thing because it's like I may be able to go on the moon. I'm not trying to. You can laugh.
I'm not gonna laugh. I'm all like, oh, you are very optimistic that they will not kill us before you can get to the moon.
Because I love science fiction so much, and it's not fiction.
It's not fiction. It's for real. And like, they have found so much crazy shit with doing this with the atom smasher. They have broken the atom apart. They have discovered that dark matter exists. And like, we've talked before about like seeing the spaces in between and seeing the very particles of air. And I'm like, is that my eyes? Like they're perceiving the empty space from dark matter, because dark matter is in everything. It's within us. It's within you. And that's what they found with the fucking atom smasher. And like, a lot of their discoveries just kind of prove a lot of spiritual shit, right?
Well, and that's diving into the conspiracy, whatever you want to call it. I do think.
I mean, this is like what I'm talking about. Isn't even conspiracy. This is available in Science magazine.
I know that. Like, that's why I'm diving
like
into
the dark and the light, like that right there. That just is spiritual. We're made of darkness and we're made of light. Like we talk about that. We've talked about that in so many different episodes,
right?
And that's one of the things that like this has proven. Like,
no, absolutely,
we are all made up of dark matter and real physical matter. And we talk about how darkness like attracts darkness, and dark matter really does attract dark matter, just like physical matter attracts physical matter, like in gravity. You know what I mean? Like it's beautiful in a seriously terrifying way.
Absolutely.
So I mean, like, before even getting into the conspiracies, let's just talk more fact real quick about CERN. CERN chose to build their Large Hadron Collider on top of what once was the Temple for Apollo in what at the time was Lyons, France. And that, per a letter from Jesus, according to Christian lore.
I knew you were going to mention that.
According to Christian lore, Jesus wrote a letter saying that this place is a portal to hell. And they fucking knew that when they chose to build their Large Hadron Collider on top of this temple.
Okay,
And they
I'm
showed,
confused.
like, they absolutely built on top of this temple because in the process of building their space, they had to stop so archaeologists could come in and get the stuff that was being uncovered as they started to build.
So I'm confused. I got a couple questions. You say a temple of Apollo. I did read that. Apollo the god, right? Okay. Why the fuck is that a temple to hell? You know what I mean? Per the Bible, because the letter, it said it wasn't exactly all
like one of the somebody who had been sanctified, received sainthood or whatever, like an apostle of somebody.
Well,
whatever,
it was
put to
Apollo
death, was
something like
Apollonian,
yes, something like that. There was a Y in it, so
yeah,
Apollo something.
But he was sacrificed at this site, and it was a pagan. It was the place of worship for a pagan god. Which, so the answer that you're really looking for is the fact that when you take the names of Zeus and Apollo in cuneiform, they relate back to the same name as Nimrod, which is Satan. So that is why they see it as a portal to hell, because when you go back in language and you start taking things backward in language, you see a lot of overlaps, right? But like Venus is also associated with Lucifer.
I know it's
so like it has to do with energies, right? Because like Venus is a freeing energy. Lucifer was all about freeing. You know, Prometheus was all about freeing with knowledge. You know what I mean? Lucifer freeing with knowledge. If you're a certain kind of mind, knowledge is a bad thing.
Well, it's just so frustrating, if you don't mind me saying, like, as a Hellenic pagan, like, oh, of course, one of my gods, or one of the gods that I recognize, of course, a pagan god's temple is, you know, the portal to hell. It's like, are you serious?
Well, I mean, if it helps you any, as someone who practices a Slavic faith, everybody feels that way about my faith, not just Christians. So I mean, when you delve beyond what Western world finds acceptable, it starts getting more and more. So like, I'm just saying, like, it can be very offensive if you take it that way. I'm just saying it. They are Christians. And so this is their mythology, and their mythology says this is where people were put to death. And that's why it's a portal to hell. And in their line of thinking, it also has to do with being a portal to hell because of the fact that these things relate back to Satan because they were pagan, whatever. But also you have to think of it from the standpoint, because I've already had this whole thought process
when it comes
earlier,
to Hellenic and Roman deities, which are the same thing, they really get a fucking bad rep in the fucking Bible for sure. I mean,
well, yeah, because that was what they had come from, if you think about it, right? And so if you think about like being a Christian, okay, Christians believe what their holy book tells them, and their holy book says that this occurred in this place. And they also are of a mind that even before Christianity was around, their God is what made everything. They are of a mind that God made Adam and Eve and gave them this place, right? And so like, because I mean, if you throw back to last week, we were talking about the mother of all mothers, like God doesn't even give that. There is no mother in Christianity. I mean, yes, there is Jesus's mother, but when you look at creation in Christianity, God created all of this stuff, right? So if you're looking at it from a Christian mindset, that's why it makes sense that it's a portal to hell. I can see it being a portal because of great energy being there, especially if, I mean, there were human sacrifices.
Oh, I mean, and
I
mean,
honestly,
in all lore. I mean, there was human sacrifices. Oh, look at the motherfucking, what are they called? It starts with the Druids. You know what I mean? Oh, there's fucking human sacrifices. There was absolutely human sacrifices in Hellenic. I'm sure there was in Slavic. I mean, it's fucking history. It is what it is. I'm sure there's a crazy amount of energy there. But I'm not going to sit there and say I think that a temple to Apollo is fucking a portal to hell. That would be like me saying I think because there were people put to death at a Catholic church in Europe that I think that's a portal to hell. And
I would agree with that is.
I feel like that would be so yeah, but the response would be totally different, right?
I think because of the inclusion of human sacrifice, I don't know that the response would be totally different. Now, if you name out that human sacrifice was pagan people, then the response becomes different because you're talking to predominantly Christian individuals, you know, and like, because it's the Christian individuals that think it's a portal to hell.
Right. And to be clear, like, I don't want to, I'm not like a hypocrite. I'm not in denial. I know, and not just Hellenic culture, but all culture, human sacrifice has absolutely been a thing. So please don't misunderstand me and being like, that never happened, because that's definitely not what I'm saying. Because I know it totally happened.
Yeah.
Just like I know it happened in Celtic lore. I mean, fuck, people were sacrificed to the Fae. You know what I mean? People sacrificed everywhere.
Oh, I'm excited about the Changeling episode.
Yeah. Exactly.
See, it all goes together, guys.
Use that argument. I'm so sorry. I will get off this topic.
No, you're fine. It's
but
just,
you
it
could
all
use
goes
that
together.
argument and say all of those places that people were sacrificed.
That's
to
what
gods,
that's
or
what
changelings or portals to hell.
When I agreed, that's exactly
you think
what I
they're
was
all
agreeing.
portals to hell?
I think they are portals,
right,
and not caused by positive energy.
Right.
And so, if you're going to use the terminology of portal to hell, then yeah. But I don't actually believe in hell as a
I don't
construct.
believe in hell either. So like,
but when you're saying portal to hell, I mean, think about because like this comes into the conspiracy theories. You're like, have you ever seen the movie Event Horizon?
No.
Okay, you probably.
I should watch it. Okay.
It's real visually fucked up. It's one of the horror movies Corey will not watch with me. I love Event Horizon, and it's so hard to watch because it's so fucked up. But essentially, it's a spaceship that went outside of our dimension.
It sounds good already.
Wound up in like a hell dimension.
What the fuck?
And then came back to our dimension with something else with it. It's got Dr. Grant from Jurassic Park.
Aliens? Is there like alien like? Okay, then never mind.
But like, and very much Event Horizon, they think like that the Haldron, when they tested it in the first place back in September of 2008 or 2009, when they first tested it, that's one of the conspiracy theories, is that it put us into a different dimension. And one of the theories along with that is that it was a hellish dimension, or they brought something over from a hellish dimension. And again, when I say hellish, I'm not talking about the Christian biblical hell.
No, but hell does have its own definition.
Just that connotation of like a very bad, and it doesn't even have to be hell, because that would be like, that implies an afterlife, right? Like think Hellraiser World, which also implies an afterlife. But you know, it's this whole dimension where everything's really fucked up and everything's horrible. And this spaceship came back from that, and then this crew gets a distress message, and they go, no, that's not what happened. Yeah, that is what happened. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. I haven't seen it for a hot minute. I thought about watching it for this, but we watched The Birdcage last night instead. So, because I fucking love The Birdcage. But like, when I say I believe that it could be a portal to hell, I just mean like a portal from third dimension that we exist in to something else that is not this dimension that we exist within. That is a negative place, and that is why the portal is open there, because of the negative things that happened there.
I want to give a throwback to one of our previous episodes. I can't remember what episode it was, but we discussed something similar. Not necessarily cursed lands, but something along the lines. I live in a town as Amber and I were discussing last week, that like hosted, if you want to use that term, one of the bloodiest battles in the Civil War. Is that a portal? I could see it being a portal of some sense. I think it would have equal to. I mean, you could say it's human sacrifice because these people were sacrificed. For, you know what I mean?
I see, like, so if you like, because okay, so
do you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, because I'm over here, like, I definitely see a distinction, like we were talking earlier, like it's not necessarily better, but I see a definite distinction between war and the death and the trauma that comes along with war, or G-side, Free Palestine, versus.
The way you said it was like you said G-side, and I was like, I thought it was a rapper or something.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be lighthearted about it. No, I'm gonna.
You don't want to be censored,
right? Yeah, exactly. I don't want. Yeah. But it's like, and actually, you know what? G-side is more like human sacrifice than war is, and I do see war as different, except when you throw in like. When was that battle of the Civil War? Is it after they said that everybody who's 12 years or older has to be fighting? And then it wasn't a choice. It wasn't somebody who's out there fighting for, you know, what they believe or for their family or whatever the case may be. Then it was like, because they're being forced, you know? Because, exactly. Because like there were literal children.
You know exactly. I do. About, like, so to me, that would equate to sacrifice. But there is no ritual per se that goes along with it. So with the
one could argue. Right. I mean, I don't want to keep making this happen, but I'm like,
I know
there's so many different threads that you can go down, because one could argue that like war in and of itself has a ritualistic thing. Like there's all these meetings that lead up to it, negotiations, you know, blah 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 blah. I am not trying to minimize war, guys. I guess
for me, what I'm trying to say is, long story short, do I think it's possibly a portal? Yes. Do I think it's any portal worse than the million, I mean, you could say million, at least thousands of other fucking portals around the entire world that has had the exact same thing or something very similar happen? No. So when they say it's a portal to hell, like it's the portal to hell, no. But I can see a big portal.
Well, like, okay, so because there's more to Christian mythology that feeds into that, because like apparently the sacrifice of this person was horrific, because there's two different stories. One is that the person was sacrificed at Apollo's altar in Lyons, France. The other is that it was the person was sacrificed at the altar, not altar, I'm using the wrong word.
For being Christian.
Yes, for being Christian. So at Zeus's thing in a brain bull, because that was created specifically.
Damn. That's rough. I'm so sorry. I was not even there. I'm just like, that's rough.
But like, I couldn't help it. It was funny. One of you guys laughed with me.
So this person, I'm so sorry to keep going. We can stop after this. This person was killed for being a Christian, and that created a portal. How many people were killed and hung for being a witch? That's got to be portals there too.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier.
Like, so I do think
that's
it's a
like
portal,
what you said.
But
if it's a Catholic church where they killed a lot of people, I'm like, there would be a portal,
right?
And they just don't care because it's pagan people and they don't see us as people,
right?
Like,
guys, I lost.
I'm a people too.
I'm lost. The point is, it's supposedly a portal to hell in the Christian lore. And one of the things, go ahead.
No, you're good.
One of the things that I read in the research that I did about specifically the Christian lore conspiracy was that there's a 666 in the CERN logo, but there really is that.
Right, exactly.
There really is.
So we're talking about these first things because it seems like these are for real things. They went out of their way to really build on this old site to Apollo where there is actual mythology that it's a portal to hell, and they did that on purpose.
Right.
They literally made their logo how they made it, and if they're blind, then they're fucking blind.
But I looked at the logo.
See how you can miss it.
I showed Bryson, and he was like, that's a stretch. No, it's not a stretch. I'm looking at it right. Like, are you gonna pull it up?
I am.
Because I'm like, that is not a stretch. That is not an accident. That's really not an accident.
There is no coincidence.
There's
Like,
no
there is
coincidence. Like, I'm like, no, it's really right there. So there really is 666 in their logo. Which it's like, did these motherfuckers do it on purpose because they wanted, like, let's just drive these bitches crazy with a conspiracy? Like, it's literally right there.
Okay, ignore how many notifications are at the top of my screen because it'll drive some of y'all crazy. But literally, like, yeah, maybe you could say it's a stretch, but like there are distinctly it's a 666 in there.
Yes.
But beyond that, beyond there being a 666 in there, and beyond being built on what is referred to as already a portal to hell in Christian mythology.
And honestly, a sacred site to Hellenic fucking people as well, if it was an
right, because like portal or no, either way, it's a portal. Exactly.
Right, exactly.
And that is why I said, like, I still think it's a portal, like, no matter what.
Right.
And granted, I can see why it would be a negative portal, but either way.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Please don't think I was.
Either way. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm just saying you make a good point. So either way, it could be a portal. But I was like, I'm not trying to get back into that.
Yeah, because we just went on forever.
I
get you. Go ahead.
But then out front, they have a statue of Shiva,
the destroyer, in Hindu lore. So, like,
if they weren't trying to be controversial, they're the how I don't want to be offensive. I can't say it that way, but they are the least socially capable scientists that science has ever produced.
Right, literally. Like, are you trying?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I'm like, did they do it on purpose?
No, yeah, exactly. No, they did. They absolutely did it on purpose. And if they're going to try and say that they didn't, then they have absolutely no social cue taking or
they are scientists.
But there are certain yeah, I know that. That's why I was like, how do I say this in the least offensive manner?
They're fucking nerds. They don't like
serious.
I say that because I am like
I'm gonna not offend people by continuing down this path, but my point is there's no goddamn coincidence. They did that shit on purpose. And I'm gonna put out there that most of these scientists are not atheists, that they are in some way have been raised Christian and have some core Christian values, which is why to push that envelope, they went with these things.
Right.
That's my thought. Now, another fact about CERN, before we dive even more into conspiracies, which a lot of it, again, there's a border. Like,
these are facts.
Yeah. But so one of the things where CERN originally came from, or one of their first things scientifically, like that led to the Large Hadron Collider, all this stuff, is there was research on how to make the North and South Pole switch.
That's fucking weird. Why would they want to do that?
Well, that's fucking weird because we talk about it in our conspiracy theory episode.
We do. I'm just like, why would they want to do that in the first place and how?
Well, I mean, just like you said, why would they do the thing with the smashing atoms? Because they wanted to know if they could, because they are essentially playing God, because they are not atheists. Yeah. Sorry, the more Christian, because I actually came upon a lot more Christian mythology, like conspiracy that went along with CERN than I was ever expecting.
Right.
And I find it super fucking interesting. And like, whereas a lot of people are like, oh, this just proves more that Christianity is real. I don't agree with that at all. But these scientists have definitely been proving spiritual fact. Like I have said for years now, magic and science are the same thing. And I finally realized that the right way to say it is magic and science are the same thing. They're just talking a different language. And the scientists at CERN are just proving that right.
Well, did you see that the Pope addressed and changed the Catholic Church's stance on supernatural and paranormal experiences? Well, they did. I don't want to get into that. Do you guys look some research up? Well, like basically, so
just fill us in.
You know, people used to be possessed and call like the Pope and shit like that, or like call them like for exorcisms and stuff like that. So they're acknowledging like that, yeah, this is a thing and there's no proof that it's not a thing. So like, yeah, absolutely, you know, but they've never openly done. You know, exorcisms used to be like not something that they just super done like super publicly or whatever. So when I was doing my research on CERN, they're like, oh yeah, because CERN is preparing us for a huge fucking hologram, and the Catholic Church is part of it. The huge hologram that is going to be War of the Worlds, and CERN is building that, and the Catholic Church is part of it, because when the hologram comes in and they have, you know, it's going to be like monsters or whatever taking over the world. Well, there's going to be one guy that steps up and saves the day. Well, of course, the Catholic Church is part of CERN.
Not everything is as it seems. Not everything is as it seems. I knew I would have an opportunity to pull this. And if you want to get that joke, you have to watch the YouTube. But I knew at some point.
Oh, that's what you were. I was like, okay.
Oh, I am talking about what you're talking about, but I'm giving a visual to it too because it's funny to me. It's highly funny to me.
But so, which I want to do a conspiracy episode on that conspiracy anyway. But like, CERN being the ones to, like, okay, let me just start over because this fucking conspiracy like confuses me. Okay, so CERN in this conspiracy theory, CERN is going to quote unquote open a portal, which is going to quote unquote release all these demons and bad shit.
Yep. Pandemonium.
But really,
Pan, another pagan god. Like, there's so much Christian lore that goes along with the CERN shit. It's so funny to me.
But
I was
really,
like laughing.
It's all a hologram in the sky that we, as people who like CERN's part of it, like all the states or whatever, like all the cities, like the
theories about
country, whatever. And it's going to be in the sky, and it's going to be realistic 4D holograms, and it's going to look like there's a huge apocalyptic like situation. And it's going to start because CERN opened, quote unquote, opened up the portal. They're going to release another hologram of a super huge guy or somebody that's going to save the day. That's Jesus. That's the return of the king, right? Or as they say. And that's why the Catholic Church is changing everything. And that's how the Catholic Church is involved with CERN, because it's one giant conspiracy theory, CERN and the Catholic Church. And I thought that was really interesting because I've heard that conspiracy theory before.
So there's also a conspiracy theory about CERN that does not involve the holographic piece or the church at all, just that because they are releasing all this energy by doing the atom smashing, and they're doing all these other experiments with like they literally told us they're trying to open a portal to another dimension. Like, they straight up told us, like, they're absolutely trying to. Like, that's fact. Like, that is in the news. That's so
sorry.
fact.
I'm so sorry. I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to finish real quick before we get in on your conspiracy theory. But the point is that guy comes in and saves the day, and it's God. It's the return of the king.
Right.
So we're all united under one new religion, one new world order. That's the end of the conspiracy.
Sorry. But minus the hologram, like there's also like there's a real fear that they are going to release a bunch of
real thing, demons. Not a hologram.
Right, not a hologram, a real thing, because they really are trying to open portals to another dimension, because they truly have figured out that there are other dimensions, that string theory is absolutely a thing, that they have figured out that, and this is fact according to what I researched, but like that, like life is like a book, that our world is a page among a bunch of other pages. And CERN's thing is that if they can not turn the page, because our page is individual from all the other pages, you have to puncture the page to get through. And so they are trying to puncture the very fabric of reality to get to the other dimension to see what is over there. And the fear is that when they do, whatever's on the other side is going to be able to just come through. And Because
why do we
these
always
are-
assume it's a negative thing? You know, what if the whatever's on the other side is something real nice?
Well, then we're going to be the demons.
Right,
Go
that's
through
what
and
we're
ruin
gonna do.
everything.
Seriously, we assume that they're the bad guys. What if we're the bad guys? We have destroyed our own world. Homo sapiens have destroyed everything.
We can't even have a visual portal from New York to.
Yes, do you see the videos? Oh my god!
I didn't see the videos. I just I saw. Well, I guess I saw the first video like when they first turned it on, and then I saw an article that it was turned off because an OnlyFans model flashed it.
Oh my god! Yeah, they were being so awful. But like, so
The
my
poor
point
Irish.
is like, we've
Poor
destroyed
Irish.
our own.
Of course, yeah.
We've
No.
of course
Yeah.
we're gonna look and try and destroy
Uh-huh.
another's. And if we don't, we see these guys on the other side, like you said, oh, it's gonna be like it's like they're gonna release something negative, whatever. What if we are the negative?
Right.
And we're gonna be doing all these experiments.
We are.
And just because they don't look
Right.
same.
And we assume that we're somehow like a higher being or whatever. But
a
here's the
lower
other
life
thing.
form.
Here's the other thing. They're literally playing God because, okay, if there are other dimensions, they're separated for a reason. Like,
Absolutely.
they exist naturally the way they are without humans getting our dirty little goddamn fingers involved.
What if?
And like CERN is really gonna kill. Like,
what do you think would happen if somebody was standing in the way of the two atoms about to crash? Do you think that would kill someone?
Oh, absolutely.
You think?
I don't think you could get in there.
No, you can. I'm just speaking
Yeah.
hypothetically. If
No,
two
I just
like, do you think you could blow up?
I don't think you'd blow up. I think it would be more like you're like the amount of power, because like these atoms are shot at 99% the speed of light.
Yeah.
So like you would be eviscerated. Like there might be a red mist of you left. Maybe.
Where you go?
Well, because I mean, think about it. When we split an atom, it's an atomic bomb, right? So when you smash atoms together to make the atom split into a million different pieces, literally you're eviscerated because it's like a million atomic bombs and you're the only thing that it's affecting. That would be the most horrific thing I can think of. Like that is truly an awful thought.
I imagine
like,
it wouldn't be painful.
Because here's another thing that's fact. I can imagine it probably wouldn't be painful because you would be over before you ever knew what was happening. But here's another piece of science fact.
That's how they, go ahead.
The atom smasher machine, the LHC, Large Hadron Collider, it gives off like excess energy in a way, just like if you think about it, like when you're holding a cup of liquid and you're walking and your liquid's all moving, right? Because you're walking and then it goes over the edge when you have a full cup of coffee. In the same way of energy building up and rippling out, the LHC has created phantom energy that changes and directs the atoms that are in the collider. Like it's like they're calling it a phantom and a specter. Like, and it's been created by the offput of the energy of smashing these atoms.
You know what we're discussing right now? The transporter from Star Trek. Beam me motherfucking up, Scotty. Energize, bitch. That's literally what they do. Like, they have to destroy atoms and recreate atoms so that you can go. You know what I'm talking about,
I
right?
do know what you're talking about, but now it sounds horrific.
I've always
Before it was cool. Beam me up, Scotty, and it's like, God, I hope my ass doesn't go on backwards like President What's-His-Face with Spaceballs. But
it is literally, it is reconverted matter. It's destroyed matter and reconverted matter. We're discussing the possibility of a transporter. You guys,
science fact. It's not science fiction. It's science theory that is becoming science fact. And
I'm so close.
Did you hear the thing about it created a phantom? Did you read about the phantom at all?
No.
Did you see any of the videos about the phantom? Like, the energy from these atoms has created an entity that can change the atom.
Oh God. Well, and the issue with the transporter,
I'm sorry.
so I remember reading about it. Like,
want to do that.
Now. Okay, so the problem with the
learned about
transporter
this shit,
is
it's terrifying.
you're destroying atoms to recreate atoms, right? When you destroy atoms, those atoms die. You're recreating atoms, but it's not the same atoms. So when you're transported, beam me up, Scotty. Spock goes on there. He's like, energize. You are
He's a new Spock
essentially
every fucking
a
time.
new person every time. Oh my God. I'm so happy. What was that face about? We're so close to Star Trek, you guys.
Is that? Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but you're going to. So that okay, but
Sorry.
here's the thing: like, I am me, and I'm going to get transported, a la Star Trek. So every single piece of me,
yes,
at least the matter, if not the dark matter, will be essentially killed.
Dematerialized is what they call it. But yeah, destroyed.
And then recreated as something new.
Rematerialized. Yes.
Well, but you said it destroys the atoms.
Yes.
Which means, so like, there's a very big difference between like the words that are being used, like destroying an atom and then recreating the atoms versus dematerializing and rematerializing. They sound very different, but when you say destroy an atom and recreate an atom, then that inherently means it's like a clone of me.
Yeah,
it's not me, it's a clone of me.
Yeah.
So from
seen
the very first moment that I ever decide to be like, yes, beam me up, now everything that is me as an entity from then on is just one clone after another clone after
I don't know,
because
I'm over here like, is it a clone or is it a new? And I'm also like, so if you use the transporter and you're sick, are you going to be rematerialized not sick? I don't know. Does that make sense, or is that totally different?
Well, and like if you're sick and then you rematerialize, like, how will the illness change your atoms as they are recreated? Like, will somehow you now, for the entire rest of your cloning days, now be like this permanently sick entity?
What if this is what CERN's working on in the whole entire? Because I could see that. Like, I'm not saying like it's not a conspiracy, but I could see them working on something like a transporter, because we're constantly trying to work on different ways to do shit. You know what I mean? But the problem with a transporter, or with what CERN is doing, is you're ultimately destroying atoms and recreating them, which is going to open up a portal, which is what a transporter fucking is.
Well, and not just that, but also there is the very real danger, like absolute, like everybody that is working on these projects that goes like talks publicly, like has admitted like they could create black holes. If they create a black hole within the Earth's atmospheric gravitational pull, that black hole will just consume everything in here. Like, it won't be able to get out of Earth's atmosphere. It wouldn't be able to with the gravity of the Earth. If they create black holes, they will just stay here being black holes, changing everything. Now we talk about time's been weird and everything's been weird and things are getting worse. And they're possibly creating black holes. They definitely discovered dark matter is like totally a thing. It just doesn't reflect light, but it exists everywhere within us and around us. they've also discovered antimatter, which antimatter is the exact opposite of matter. Which, in a lot of things, I heard it described in one way that I cannot understand that is truly what antimatter means. But like they talked about, like in our dimension, the wood is not on fire. But in another dimension, the wood is already on fire because everything is the wrong kind of matter. And I don't think I don't think the person that made that example truly understands what antimatter is. Now, the person who said antimatter is just that. It's the exact opposite of the physical material that we are made up of. Which means antimatter comes in contact with matter and it makes it go away. But in the process of the atom smashing, they're creating antimatter, they're making antimatter come about. They've discovered antimatter and brought it into our realm, even though it didn't exist here. I don't understand the antimatter thing, but it's terrifying because they compare it to like Stranger Things is based on like antimatter versus matter. Jeez. Like the whole like upside down thing. Yeah, like that's based on like the ideals behind, like the scientific theory and ideals behind antimatter. I don't truly understand antimatter. I'm not a scientist. I don't understand antimatter, but I do understand why there's so many conspiracy theories that go along with the actions that they're taking at CERN that make people go, you're going to end the world.
Yeah.
Like these are also the guys that not only might they create a black hole, but they oh shit, it was like right there. They created a star and they created magnetic poles to contain this star that are stronger than our own.
What? That's insane.
Yeah.
And that's true. That's not a conspiracy.
No, that is true. That is not a conspiracy. Like, the conspiracies are like wild to me, like the whole like portal to hell, demons coming out, the trumpets of like the trumpets from like the seventh seal or one of the seals or whatever was heard when CERN started the first time, which I'm like,
I wasn't there.
I don't know. Yeah, I wasn't there. But so here's an interesting thing that I learned during my research for CERN that I found to be the most interesting thing from a Witches Talking Tarot standpoint. And that was that in conjunction with CERN and the Hadron Collider, people have been experiencing Havana syndrome. Now, I'd never heard of Havana syndrome before, and if you look it up online now, it will tell you that it's due to Russian like intelligence interference. But Havana syndrome has been around since the US had beef with Cuba back in like the 70s and 80s. And Havana syndrome, guys and gals, for those of you who've never heard of it before, causes dizziness and extreme headaches, intrusive thoughts leading to depression and anxiety, and pretty much every single thing we talk about in our conspiracy theory episode.
That is insane. That is very interesting.
And furthermore, what is interesting along with that is, yes, the CERN Large Hadron Collider, so hard to say, But every time I can't say LHC. It always wants to come out LCH, and that's not right. But it's not the only one in the world. There's one in Stamford, Connecticut.
It's just the biggest one.
It's just the biggest one. There's one in New York. There's one down in Texas. And if you haven't heard our conspiracy theory episode where Amber and Maddie made a conspiracy theory, and then Amber and Maddie update their conspiracy theory, I think is the update's name. When I was close to Houston, when we first experienced all those things, I was like, it's the worst down here.
Mm-hmm.
There's an LHC.
Let me know how it
in
is when you go on
Texas.
vacation then.
Well, and I don't know if it's running. Oh, yeah. Well, but our buddy from the Neatcast, hey, Zach Daddy, he lives up north, and he's a person who experienced very similar things,
Mm-hmm.
which means he lives up near two of them. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Like, I wasn't expecting to come across any of that
Mm-hmm.
with the CERN research that I did, but I had no idea that Havana syndrome was a thing. I am amazed that that's exactly what we experienced in our conspiracy theory. I now truly believe that maybe it's due to the magnetic poles shifting. Maybe it's just due to CERN and their LHC. I think it's a combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has to do with the atom smashing. I also think it has to do with, like, if at the inception of CERN they were testing the switching of poles,
Mm-hmm.
what makes you think they stopped?
Right, exactly. Let us know what you think in the comments if you're watching us on YouTube. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Well, so if you have heard of CERN and their doings, super interested to know what
I do want to know what their
are.
thoughts are. I do, because I've heard so many, I read so many different thoughts. I was on TikTok. I heard so many different thoughts. I'm very curious on if any of our listeners subscribe to any of the conspiracy theories, or if you, like my husband, think it's all a bunch of hocus pocus. And
what do you think?
I think, truthfully, I do not know. I think that this is actually one of those conspiracy theories that I do not know. I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's a supernatural conspiracy theory or a paranormal or a religious conspiracy theory, because we came across a lot of those.
Yeah.
But I do think it could be a government conspiracy theory. I do think it could be behind a government cover-up for something else that they're doing, or a government project, whatever, that is extremely dangerous that they don't want us to know about because they don't want us to freak out about it being extremely dangerous. So I guess if I were to fall in line with a conspiracy theory, I think it would be more the accidentally creating a black hole, accidentally creating some sort of fucking atomic bomb and blowing half of Europe up.
Type for the record, all of that's just science fiction.
Right.
There's no fiction, there's no conspiracy theory. Like, those are all real possibilities.
So yeah, and that's what I fall in hand with. But I don't necessarily think it's a religious or spiritual type.
No, I find the holographic one highly interesting.
It's
I don't
very
put
interesting.
It past them.
Yeah.
I don't put it past anybody. I really don't. I just think that they're, I don't know, if I fall in line with any of the conspiracy theories about CERN, it would simply be the one where when they first started back in 2009 or 2008, that they really did change us to a different dimension, because the Mandela effect, like all that conversation, that never happened before CERN started playing around with their toys. I grew up learning that Nelson Mandela died in prison. So when it was like Nelson Mandela's alive and then he died in 2013, I'm like, what the fuck? No, that's not true. And it's also take my strong arm, not my good arm.
Right. There's
And-
so many. There
Right.
are so many.
Like Fruit of the Loom's original thing was this. Pizza Hut.
It
spelled
literally
this way.
had the fucking cornucopia.
Yes, it
really
fucking did. It absolutely did. And so when you say conspiracy, like that's the one that I'm like, if there's really, if any of the conspiracy theories are just conspiracy and actual fact,
Mhm.
I think that would be the one. Like they threw us into a different dimension by
Mhm.
accident, or they flipped it, like they maybe not changed us into it, but like smushed two dimensions together by accident.
Mhm.
I actually think that one's more likely than anything, because how would some of us remember and some of us not?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
like it really seems like they got smushed together. But I'm curious to know like what you guys found, because you say like you found so many different thoughts. Like what did people on, like what did you see thought wise? Like what were you seeing when you were doing your research on like what people think?
A lot of it was Christian conspiracy, if I'm being honest with you. Almost 90 to 95% of the conspiracies that I found on CERN had to do with Christianity, Revelations, the Mark of the Beast, the 666. Like that was most all of the conspiracies. And then the other like 5% were more scientific based, quote unquote, conspiracies, but like you said, more science fact.
Yeah.
Science possibility. That's why I lean more towards the science based conspiracy and less spiritual based conspiracies. If you want to use the term conspiracy, that's for lack of a better.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
you're good. Well, because conspiracy is like, it means it exists. They just trying to keep it from you.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So I think I'd be more like, so unfortunately, and I don't mean that in a hateful way when I say unfortunately, it's just I really do think it's just like a government fucking around to see if they can find out, and they're gonna find out, and we're all gonna have something to do with it, so they want to keep it a secret type thing.
I think, well, in that regard, I kind of think it's like a, oh my God, that's right. I think it's kind of like a don't look up situation. Like there was one thing I came upon that I wasn't expecting, like one of the fears with the black hole thing or the dark matter in general was like, because all their experiments, whatever, it could attract a comet or asteroid to just like come hit the planet because of the energy that they're playing with.
Jeez.
Which also could just fucking ruin the world. Like, and I honestly, like the face I made when you said like science versus spiritual, because like for me, I don't believe any of the spiritual conspiracy theories. However, I truly believe they are proving a lot of like spiritual knowledge to be true. Like proving we have dark
like you
matter
said,
within us.
magic is just science that has not been
understood as,
yet. And
like,
so they're slowly starting to understand certain types of.
I mean, it's like you brought up the World's Fair back in 1904 earlier. I mean, it's the same kind of thing, right?
It is. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. The people seeing the light flip on and off. It's the same.
I
as
wish
you
I
realizing.
was back. I wish I could experience that. I saw a video that was talking about all the cool things. I guess we are.
I was gonna say you might get to experience watching the dude for the first time particle up for real and not on
God, don't get my hopes up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but they're like, no, please don't let that be something that they show like school children on TV and then there be a complete fucking accident. Because how many times has that happened?
Oh God, please don't.
Oh, like how many times has that happened?
Oh my God.
Twice. That I can recall.
Yeah.
But I would love to see that. I would love to see that. I would love to.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like
I know it's so lame,
we
guys.
live in amazing times, guys. Like, and I'm sorry, like, because one person that was like, they were not a Christian, but not a pagan, and like kind of like talking about it from both sides. And what they said is these scientists are proving a lot of ancient wisdom to be true. And they're probably unhappy about it, is what that person said. I don't think so. I think I think there are fewer atheistic scientists than most people believe, because like Hawkins, apparently, when he was doing research into the same kind of stuff that they do at CERN.
Mhm.
Stephen Hawking. I said Hawkins. My bad. Stephen Hawking.
Mhm.
Apparently, he was an atheist until he started learning more. And that made him believe in the existence of God.
Really?
Mhm.
Because I know he said some awful shit.
Well, this is what I read, and
Okay.
this wasn't from his mouth, but thank you for getting that joke. I don't care if it was wrong. That was funny. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Anyway, okay, that's the last thing. I'll just okay. I thought that was very funny, guys. I'm sorry. But if you have anything to add to the CERN discussion, because there's probably so much more that can be
I'm
said.
sure.
My brain latched onto what my brain latched onto, and yeah, I can't think of anything
I
else.
know we've
so,
already been going
yeah.
for about an hour anyway with this episode, so please let us know in the comments.
And while you're there, make sure you like and subscribe, whether you're on YouTube or a podcast platform, or like hook a sisters up and do it all over the board.
Right?
I mean, there is nothing that says you can't be subscribed on YouTube and Spotify.
I want to give a shout out to Melissa,
And Death by DVD,
Pam,
and Victoria.
Thanks for being our Patreon, our patrons, you guys. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, you can find us at Witches Talking Tarot /Patreon, or is it
Patreon.com.
Yeah.
/
Y'all know how to find it. Just search.
Yeah. You'll see our faces.
You can find us on Threads, Facebook, and Instagram at Witches Talking Tarot.
And we are on the X as Classiest Witches, because we're the classiest witches you know. So thanks for coming to sit with us for a spell. Bye. Oops. That was fun.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Amber. And we're Witches Talking Tarot.
We are the weirdos in this story. I get so like a sailor snubble. Flip the switch and let the cauldron bubble. Sam.
Wow.